How's your 2023 been? I know you've got a movie coming up today, tomorrow. I mean, it must be exciting because you've been working on this all through the pandemic, and I know you did a Kickstarter and you got some other projects out. How's it all been?
Oh my gosh, so much more work than anticipated. I mean, it's like people who have parents, new parents who have a kid, they're like, I knew it was hard. I just didn't know it was gonna be this hard. Like I knew making a film was gonna be really hard, but hard. And then until you're just like actually in the trenches, you don't realize like, oh my God. Because there's all these stages, right? Like um doing the Kickstarter was tough. You're like begging people for money, and then after that, you got to go into pre-production, and you're solving all these problems. And like, we don't have the camera equipment to do this. We need an extra person to do that. And we're like figuring all that out. Shooting is the most fun, even though you're kind of jumping over hurdles there as well. But post-production is another animal, and then you think you're done, and distribution is the most boring of all and the hardest because you have to do all this paperwork that I'd never done before. So I was like learning all this stuff that was super stressful. So I'm really glad to be done with it all.
So, excuse my ignorance, but were you involved in the editing and the distribution as well?
I was involved at the beginning. There was like an editing team that was working on stuff, and then I came in and we worked tighter with the next editors that we worked with. So there was input on my end. I wasn't the main editor, and then in distribution, I found the distributors and I took care of the non-technical stuff. So our colorists slash editors that are awesome. They're called RKM Studios here in LA. They took care of like everything that was exporting the files and making sure the color this and the sound that. But I had to do paperwork that involved like, I don't know, letters with lawyers, and there's a bunch of things you have to hand in that you don't even know what they mean. They're like the CSC report, the E&O, the this and that. And it's just like,
Mm.
it's way less fun than it sounds.
And what was your reaction when you first saw the film fully cut? Did you get emotional, or are you already seeing bits and pieces? And
I'd
yeah,
already seen chunks, so to see it together a little more flawlessly, yeah, sure, of course, it's always exciting. But by then, you're also like, I've seen this 75 times. And it's my
yeah.
face. So I'm also like over it.
And you bear all in this one, like just from the trailer. There's emotional moments. There's I mean, you got Troy Baker involved as well, and a few others, and it seems like a bit of a wild ride emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of a lot of fun for me to do. I don't know if the audience will think it's fun. There's light moments, there's comedy,
Yeah, yeah.
there's some cosplay montages, there's stuff like that, and there's sweet moments with the family, the mom and the sister and the sister's boyfriend. But ultimately, Morgan is very lonely in the pandemic, and she's starting to fight or face her demons. And with the help of yes, her family, but truly just searching within to reconnect to her passion and what makes her shine, and ideally getting out of a toxic situation with her boyfriend. Um, we wanted it to be hopeful, because so many
Mm.
artists and just people in general go through feeling down in the dumps and like they can't get out of the hole. And there are many different ways to help your mental health. So I'd heard a lot of stories from fans at Comic Cons that they'd been suicidal, that they'd felt depressed, lonely, anxious. I'd witnessed panic attacks at cons in front of me. When people are just feeling something so deep that they can't keep it together because it's they're spiraling. And I'm very compassionate to that. And in the pandemic, I was also very alone at times, and so it felt hard to navigate because it's like, when's this going to end? And we live in this like Zoom world and in this Instagram world where we're people seem like they're happy, or like some of my friends moved to Tulum or to some island somewhere to live the pandemic days, and I was just like envious and feeling like, is that what I should have done? And so I feel like the comparison that we feel while on Instagram can be really, really hard and not good for our mental health. So I just wanted to show all of this to remind people that a lot of people went through this and there is an out.
Mm. And where's that available for anyone that wants to watch it?
It's going to be on Apple, iTunes, Amazon Prime Video, and Vudu. Um, I forget all the rules. I know that there's US distribution and then there's
Mm.
global. And I don't know if tomorrow encompasses everything, but I do know my mom was able to purchase or rent it from Colombia. Maybe it's because she has an American credit card through
Yeah.
iTunes. So I think
Yeah.
there might be little loopholes like that, but I'm not sure, But we do have
Yeah.
global distribution and that will be happening soon. So, more info to come on all the platforms.
Well, awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats. And also congrats on Dead Island 2. This is your latest game that you're a part of. Carly. Um, Talk to us about this one because this game was in development hell for years and years. I think it started in 2014. I'm sure you came on later, but pretty cool opportunity, this one, hey?
Yeah, I didn't realize it had been in development for so long
Oh,
until
yeah.
recently, because for the most part, we just sort of disconnect from what isn't being made, or we're not paying attention to as actors auditioning for so many things. We see projects come and go, and then everything has a code name, so we don't always know what that one project called code name Bacon was, and so there's all these like Overwatch was Prometheus. And so when we don't know
Mm.
what they are, it's like they kind of come and go and then we forget. And then if it comes out, we won't ever have known it was that unless we worked on it. So I wasn't aware it was in development hell for so long. I know it's welcome to Hell A, because that's kind of the motto. I don't like zombies, which I guess helped because Carla has to kill a bunch of them. Have you
Why
played
not?
it yet?
What's wrong with zombies?
Oh God. They really grossed me out. I watched Last of Us, but I really cringed every time that stuff was happening. Like I've never been able
Uh.
to see Walking Dead. It's just like, wow.
Well, in this one, you actually have to turn into a little bit of a zombie during one of the scenes, like when you go full rage mode. Do you
Yeah.
remember doing that in the booth?
Oh, dude, those are the really those are the time you just reminded me, and I was like, wait, what? Oh yeah. It,
Uh,
that stuff is tricky. I mean, in animation, we audition often for like characters that like sound normal, and then all of a sudden there's a jolt of something or a magical potion, and then they become a monster. So we've practiced that, but when you have to do it over and over again for a video game, and it's just like veins popping, like, and you have to create these sounds, and like I don't specialize in creature sounds like some voice actors do. So sometimes when you have to go full like nut job, it can be very exhausting and it is like a lot of energy being expended, but always a challenge and fun. And I liked that we got to do a lot of scene work. For
mm.
me, it's fascinating that there are 6 characters that you can play. So every scene exists as it is, but the characters you play respond differently. So they had to write essentially the non-playable characters have the same lines and we have different ones. And I think that's cool that they like were able to create sort of different tones for each character kind of with their personality within that same scene.
Yeah, because usually I know you got to go for a certain time frame. That's the only
Yeah.
sort of constraint, isn't it? But
Yeah.
usually it would be the same lines in most games. But I love how everyone's got their own personality in this one. And what was the tone you were looking for with this character? Because I know she was a motorcycle stunt rider, right?
Yeah, it's easy. I kind of felt like I was channeling Michelle Rodriguez,
Oh,
because
yeah.
she's just kind of like zombies, whatever, bam, and in not a lot of moments is she really scared. She's just kind of like, I've been surviving out there on my own, so here I go.
Yeah.
And I think she is pretty comedic. I love that she swears and she's like, this man, die. Like, I love that there was all this swearing, because it's just like I would be swearing my head off if I was fighting zombies.
Yeah.
And I,
It's
it's funny.
authentic.
I
Yeah.
didn't get like to kind of see all the other characters' stuff, because sometimes they'd show me a scene and it was just one of the guys. Like they'd show me like before recording mine, I'd see his performance and like how his lines were so different to mine, but I didn't get to watch all of them. So I don't really know like every single person's sort of like take on it. But I like that they let Carla be, a little crazy, a little loud, a little nuts.
I was speaking to Ronan, who plays Ryan, one of the playable characters,
Yeah.
and he said one of the funnest parts for him was one of the most enjoyable was the clown sort of boss fight where he got to have a bit of freedom with that, and they played it on the screen for him. I'm wondering for you, did you have any moments like that where they'd play stuff on the screen, you can react like sort of in the spot?
Yeah, that's mostly how they all were. We'd get to watch. They'd there was like silence during where our lines were, and there's like the sentence is written that we're supposed to be saying, and there's like a little kind of red thing as it moves, so we just know how much more time we have
Right.
before the other character talks. So at least we can be in the moment, and I'm watching stuff happen, and then I'm like, okay, now she walks through the door, she's gonna go, huh, you know.
Mm.
So the I think the clown one that he's talking about is on a Ferris wheel, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh God, that one was insane because it was like trying to, oh yeah, come at me, and I'm like kicking his face in, and then I'm climbing further, and then so we need those because if we don't know like how she's climbing, or it's really helpful to be able to go, or whatever. That one was hard but fun. It does stand out as like a really weird one for sure.
And are you much of a gamer yourself? I know you've dabbled a little bit, but
I'm
nah,
terrible. I'm terrible.
you've given up at this point.
Um, I like to say that my gaming career peaked when I was 7 years old while playing Mario Karts. Uh, I don't have that hand-eye coordination that first-person shooters require, and
Like
uh,
Overwatch, yeah.
oh
It's
my
not an
God,
easy game, yeah.
Valorant isn't easy either. Like I watch it, I'm like,
No.
what just happened? Who died, and who killed them? Uh,
Yeah.
I guess for Carla, I could. It's just not my jam. I like if I'm gonna do something, I'll do it outdoors, or I'm also a passive viewer. I love enjoying entertainment, like a movie, and I just get to watch. This whole like being active while I love that I'm doing this as if, I know it's a lot of this. Um, yeah, I like being passive with my entertainment. What can I say?
So when Dead Island's obviously been out for about a week now, but will you go and watch your scenes from the game? Will you once the game's released, will you go and look at those voice lines and go, "Oh, I did all right here. Oh, maybe I should have fixed that up." Like, how do you approach it, or do you just leave it in the wild?
I get I work with Daniele Brito, who's based in Brazil, and she was an original Overwatch fan, and since then she always sends me clips uh of different things that I've done. She'll find it online and rip it, and she's amazing. So she'll put stuff together, and I'll be like, oh, that was pretty cool. So now I hire her for stuff like that because I don't go into the web to figure it all out. So that's enjoyable too, to see like the final product. My boyfriend's been playing Dead Island too, and he's like, it's fun to get to hang out with you as Carla. She's got funny little quips, and so he'll film his screen and send me the latest, and so it's funny, but I don't like sit through the whole thing to watch. I don't know if I could watch the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. And when a game or a project comes out you're a part of, for example, like Morgan's Mask that's coming out, will you look at reviews or will you stay away from them? It's an interesting one because
I know that so many actors like stay away from reviews because they can be negative and damaging. I still haven't ever experienced a project that gets tons of, like, Overwatch could get tons of reviews, and for the most part, if they hated something, it was like part of gameplay, or it wasn't like we hate Sombra, or we
yeah.
love to hate Sombra because she's difficult to play. So it was never really like against me. I think this is one of the first projects where that I'm putting out there, and I have a fan base, so it could possibly have negative reviews. But I'm curious. I guess I'll read them because I'm curious for
Yeah.
the reaction, because I helped produce it, and so I want to learn sort of what resonated with people and where they had a tough time watching, or where they were like, oh, that was boring, or that was lovely. I think I want to learn for future what works, or what spoke to people. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Who's your favorite actors, actresses in the business at the moment that inspire you? And it doesn't have to just be voice acting well, because I know you're good friends with Jennifer Hale and Courtney and all those guys. They're legends.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe you can choose this industry or another. But I was just curious where your inspirations come from.
Kate Blanchett is a big one.
Oh, she's good, isn't she? Have you seen Tar?
Not yet, not yet.
Uh,
It feels dark, and I've like not made time for it yet.
Definitely
I
dark.
Yeah, I love her. I think one of the first things that I loved that I saw her in was an Australian film called Little Fish or something like that. It's one of
Mm.
her first ones, and I was like, oh my god. And then since then, like anything she's done, I just love. And sometimes for my auditions, I'll channel uh oh my god, the one from Thor Ragnarok. What's her character's name?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I've forgotten too, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah. In the big, yeah, in this, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because she's got this commanding voice and it's deep, but it's also, it's got a slight accent. And I just like it really works for fantasies. So I just
Hella.
hella,
Yeah,
hella. Gosh, sometimes you just go boop.
I know.
So I love her. I always used to say Robin Williams because I just as a kid, I
Oh,
loved
yeah.
that he did, on screen, but then also like he was the genie, which was one of my favorites, and Batty
Mm.
Coda in Fern Gully. And I just loved Mrs. Doubtfire. I mean, what's not to love about him? He was so talented. So I think he was one of my inspirations as a kid, you know, in animation and in acting. And then like Penelope Cruz, I just think does really, really great stuff. And I always admire the way, and people like Kate Blanchett, they've worked in Europe, and so the Penelope has this whole side of her. Like in Spanish, she's this very different person, And I saw her in an Italian film once, and she was playing this prostitute, and she's amazing, speaking her Italian. And so I feel like I look up to actors who do accents and speak languages because I feel like that's what I kind of want to do. Like Jodie Comer in Killing Eve is
Ah,
killer.
she's really great.
She's really
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
So Overwatch, Sombra, this is an amazing role. I mean, you must have been giddy when you got that one back in, I don't know how long ago it was now, years ago. But that animated short, 25 million views. I mean, how good is their shorts? I mean, they're so well done.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't understand how amazing a project it was. I was excited because I loved the character. I didn't know what Overwatch was going to be. We never know, right? I'm working on a video game now. I don't know if it's going to be huge or if it's going to be whatever.
Yeah.
Dead Island 2, we could never imagine that it's going to do well or it tanks. So we kind of just do the work and then go, okay, hope for the best. So for Overwatch, I was just excited because this was the first sort of main character I got to do in a video game. She's not the main one of Overwatch, but she was a playable one because I'd worked for Rockstar Games in Max Payne 3 and GTA 5, and I still hadn't gotten to like voice a character like this. So that was really exciting. And then once she popped off at BlizzCon and I got to see the fan reaction live because I was there, I was like, oh, this is big. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
comprehend,
Mm.
and then our Insta and Twitter start blowing up and we're all like, what's happening? So it was quite a ride because that year was difficult emotionally for me because I was going through a breakup, but then I was
Oh,
also
yeah.
traveling the world and meeting people from all over. And so I was like, it was like this blessing in disguise that just helped me get through some shit. And it was magical. I mean, it gave me my Overwatch family. I'm close with Anjali and Symmetra and Zenyatta and Mercy and Farah, those ladies in New York. And then Jen
Man.
Hale still wasn't in Overwatch, or she was recording, but we didn't know. But I got to meet her as this fabulous voice actor. And then years later, she's like, oh, by the way, I'm Ash. We're like, what? We didn't know. So
Those
they,
characters are already iconic in just such a short amount of time, don't you think?
yeah, I guess, it's funny because if you're not a gamer, you kind of don't even know it exists. Like it
Yeah,
really,
but
so it's a funny thing because like we'll be talking to like my sister will introduce me to a friend and they're like, oh yeah, she works in gaming, which I work on this thing called Overwatch. Oh cool, yeah, I
what's
never heard of
that?
it.
Yeah.
Totally. And then I realized, wow, it really is like if you're a gamer or in the nerd world, you sort of have heard of it or you're obsessed or no
Mm,
idea. So I guess they're
yeah.
iconic in the gaming world.
In the gaming world, but
Yeah.
like even people, friends of mine that don't play Overwatch know these characters somehow as well. I feel like it
Are they
transcends the
gamers?
game a little bit. Yeah, they're gamers, but
Well,
you know
so
what I mean?
like anything, I guess I'm an actor, right? And I still haven't seen Tar, but I know that it's Kate Blanchett. Like we know of
Mm,
things, right? But if you don't game at all, you don't even know the titles of things. You know,
yeah.
like I've told my friends, League of Legends, and they're like, no, never heard of it. I'm like, what? So
Yeah, they
some
know
people
that.
are just
normal. Well, I call them normal people, but non-gamers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They know Call of Duty, they know Grand Theft Auto, they might know The
Yep.
Last of Us, but that's about, Mario. They don't
Yes.
really know Overwatch.
Yes.
I get what you mean.
Zelda, Donkey
Yeah,
Kong, the old ones that we'd hear about. Yeah.
yeah. So, do you remember going in the booth for that for the first time? Were you nervous? I mean, I guess you weren't nervous because you didn't know how big it was, were you?
Usually I'm not nervous when I go into the booth because that already means you've gotten the job. So
Yeah, I get it.
although I lie, sometimes you worry. For Sombra at one point, well, at the beginning I was excited just because she was so badass. They showed me an image of her. I didn't know what she looked like, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. And then we got to find her, and I can have a very dry, sarcastic tone sometimes, but it didn't work for commercials. But for Sombra, it was perfect. So I was like, finally, I get to use this. So that felt cool. And then I recorded a bunch of Mexican lines and Mexican Spanish lines.
Mm.
And I kind of did an accent of what I'm used to doing in commercials, which is very from the north of Mexico, very sing-songy. It's kind of what sells Walmart and McDonald's. And a week later, when we re-recorded, they were like, hey, we're going to have somebody direct you on your Spanish lines. She's from Mexico City, not from the north. I'm like, okay, cool. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, they're going to fire me. I did a terrible job. They're not believing that I could do this. And
Oh no. Yeah.
luckily we got through those lines. And I love that Mexican gamers, if they don't know where I'm from, they assume I'm Mexican. So that's a good thing. They believe the accent. I've
Yeah.
duped them. So but it was exciting because there were so many sessions that it made me realize that, oh, she's a decent sized character, and I knew she was the only Latina. I mean, I know Gabe Reyes is Reaper is Latino, but this one spoke Spanish and she had an accent, and so she felt like representing the Latino community. And I'd never really gotten to do that in a video game.
Was there any difference when you were doing the short? Because the production value of that short is incredible, but I'm just wondering, was it still just normal booth work for you?
Normal booth work.
Yeah.
We get to see what they call a cinematic, or an animatic, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's usually like they've sort of animated some stuff, but it's still kind of in black and white, and you might see it like stop motiony so that we understand the beats. And then they're like, okay, she trips here, or she jumps here, or she does her translocator here. So we get to go, huh, 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 ha. But we get to give it our own inflection, and we don't have to worry about timing necessarily, because I really am, when I'm doing my lines, I get to go Katya Volskaya, and do my thing. But like I remember like when she goes up to her in that like secret lair or whatever, and she has like killed or just thrown some sort of tranquilizer to one of her guards. She like literally has to like walk over him, like step over him.
Mm.
So like we were playing with like Katya Volskaya. I thought you were the most, powerful woman on earth, whatever. And so we were like, does she walk over now? Does she go Katya Volskaya? Like, so we
Yeah,
played,
yeah.
and I would literally physically like try and like walk over something. So it felt like, huh. Or like, does she
Yeah.
stumble?
Helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I physicalize a lot of stuff in the booth because you gotta kind of give it that like energy.
So where do you want to see this character go? Because I know they've said they were working on a campaign or whatever, but I just want to know, where would you like to see the character goes? What would you like to explore with her?
I think we all want more backstory. We want to know more
Mm.
about where they came from, who did they love, if they loved somebody, like there's no
Mm.
way that Sombra is just completely cold and calculating all the time, or what happened. I know that, there's another short of hers that shows kind of like growing up in El Dorado and how everybody she loved was killed. So she has no family, but I think just like more nitty gritty, like, does she have a crush on anybody in Talon? Or, like, I know she has a fun relationship with Sigma and their buddies. And so that's special. But just, we love emotions as actors. We love kind of
Mm.
understanding why people tick. And so that would be kind of cool. I would love if there was just more character interaction in general. Because that makes us feel like we're in a short for real.
Those videos where they put together where the heroes are talking to each other. There's a few lines where they talk to each other in the game, and they do so well because
Yeah.
people want to see that, don't they?
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
believe it. And we love it too, you know, because it also, in just one line, I'm telling you that I'm making fun of Tracer by like
Mm.
this little snarky remark, or the way Diva like can jab at me, or
Bit of banter.
uh
Mm.
yeah, Banta.
Bit of
Absolutely.
camaraderie. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And I saw you did a cosplay of Sombra. That must have been cool because not often do I see the actor actually do the cosplay as well. I love to see that.
I have done four. Um
4. Wow.
Four of Sombra. Yeah. So she the first one I did was, I mean, it feels like the most special because it's the first time I ever did anything like that. And we got to walk around this Katsukan, which is very well known for cosplay. So everybody's dressed up and it just feels like you're in this like magical land of like people walking around with their swords and stuff. And people were like, "Hey, cool Sombra cosplay." And I'd say a voice line, and then they're like, "Wait a minute, you're real Sombra!" Like they just thought I was a cosplayer, and then they're like, "Wow!" So it was cool because this cosplayer, Melanie Jasmine, made the costume for me, and her husband is an awesome videographer, so he did this whole behind the scenes stuff, which was super special. And since then, she's done all the other ones for me. So I did BlizzCon with Anjali. She did Fire Symmetra, Dragon Symmetra, and I did the Rhine cosplay, which is the blue one with the, you know, kind of the winter skin. And then we did the Bride of Frankenstein, Frankenwife, whatever she's called.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I did that one at a con, and then the Black Cat Sombra. So yeah,
Wow,
usually for
even you're doing
conventions.
skins as well. Man, that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
crazy. You are
yeah.
committed. I love that.
Look, if I made them, there's no way. I'm sewing something. Melanie makes them. She does my makeup. You know,
Ah,
done.
that doesn't matter. Still. And it
Yeah.
helps with the movie, I'm sure, because you've done it. You've
Well,
been
yeah.
that
I mean,
cosplayer.
in the movie, there's some moments where I do some simple cosplay, and then at the end we do like a big one. And I hired Melanie for that one. She built the beautiful Mercy Sugar Plum Fairy cosplay, and
Yeah.
she was on set with us, and I got to use her equipment to show like Morgan making the costume. And she did everything. She built the wings at my house, and she did my makeup, and it was really special because she's super talented.
Man, and so are you. Now, and in saying that, I want to talk about a few other projects. So, Valorant, talk to us about this one because that is a game that sort of blew up a little bit as well. Similar vein to Overwatch, but a
Yeah.
bit different, a bit more like CS:GO, but another one where you get to play this hero. How cool was that?
That was special because I knew about League of Legends. I've auditioned for League of Legends. I've gotten
Ah, yeah.
callbacks, but I've never booked it. I knew about Arcane. Getting to do something for Riot was really cool. I also loved that she was Brazilian, and I lived in Brazil for a bit and really connected to the culture and the people. So I was just like excited to bring to life this character that was very different to Sombra, but also very similar to me in ways. I can be loud and energetic and, you know, a little zany, but I love that Raze just isn't like, all right, let's go kill some people. You know, she builds community with her team, and she wants to bring them together, and she calls them her family. And so I think there's just something really loving and beautiful about her. Um, and so it's a project that's really close to my heart because they let me do a lot of improv for that, the director and the writer. And it wasn't just like, these are the lines, go. It was like, we haven't quite figured her out. And so I was just spitballing in the booth, and some stuff was bad, but then other stuff was like really good. So we're like, oh, cool, that's Dave, that's a voice line, you know? So I really got to explore some stuff there. It was
Is
special.
that a one and done role, or will there be more for that character down the
No,
line?
I record for them. Well, I don't know if they'll do like Valorant too. I think there's just always
Yeah.
DLCs, you know? And
Yeah, okay.
so
So you're always
yeah.
doing new lines for that. Oh,
And I
that's
think
cool.
they work on shorts as well, or little like backstory things. So there will be opportunity for stuff like that, which is cool.
I saw you pop up in Mr. Robot. How was that experience all those years ago?
That was fun. I mean, it was a half a day. I wish it had been
Yeah, but
longer.
still pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's funny. I auditioned and I knew Rami Malek would come in at the end of the scene, but I didn't know who played the other character. And then the night before, I'm looking up and doing all the information because for those, sometimes you audition in 2 days they cast you, and then you're shooting like the next day. You know, so it can be
Shit,
very quick.
yeah.
And so when I looked it up and I realized it was Bobby Cannavale, I'm like, oh my God. And I had met him
Mini heart
before, but
attack.
I'd
Yeah.
never worked with him. And so now I'm like, oh man. So that was special. Just it was weird. It's driving and everything's shot through the front glass. And so it was kind of a strange shoot, but it feels good when you're acting opposite real amazing people. So super
And
special.
in a similar vein, you were in The Affair as well, weren't you?
Yeah.
That was a very interesting show. I remember binging that one. How was that? Because that's a very different role to what you usually do,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I wish that those roles had been bigger, obviously, because you get to explore more. So
Mm.
for that character, I mean, I was meant to just be in the pilot, like I'm sort of flirting with Dominic West, and he's like, I'm married, like, thank you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then as his life unravels, I kind of come back to show how he's just off his rocker and just being a man who's out there having fun. And what was cool was that Dominic West treated me like an equal, like, and they all did. Obviously, Bobby Cannavale and Rami Malek as well. But this was my first kind of real big TV thing, and it was the first day of shooting. We were shooting first thing, like I was the first one on set with them
Damn.
in the pilot. And it's just like instead of Dominic being like, "Okay, great, let's do this again," he'd be like, "That's okay for you. Would you like to do it again? What can I do different?" And I'm like, he's asking me what I need. Like I thought I was just here to aid the story, but he was aware that like, what can I do differently? And at one point, he's supposed to show me his ring. And that's when I realized, oh, you're married. I'm sorry. And he kind of kept doing this. And I was like, at one point I was just like, I don't really see your hand. So if you could just bring it up a little more, it kind of like, it will be very clear. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And he's just like, he was so kind and generous and, uh,
Giving, yeah.
and giving, and he was doing an American accent. So then he'd be like, "Is this how you say it in America?" And I'm like, I'm actually not like super American. I half and half, but yes, you're doing great." Because he was trying to keep his very American accent. So it was great. And that whole crew was wonderful. And I just felt like, oh, like we struggle so much when we audition and we don't get roles. And so when we're on set, that's a reminder of like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. It feels really good.
So, of your body of work, what's a character that you wish you got more time with, that you'd love to explore more in a show or in a fully fledged game? Who would it be?
I mean, the affair one would have been cool.
Mm.
I had a dream once that my character was pregnant with Dominic West's son. I was like, well, that would throw a wrench into things. He's already dealing with drama.
You should
And
have
then I'm like,
pitched it.
hey. And then I don't know, I guess I've done a lot of little projects, like little like indie films, and so my little roles are here and there. I was in this film called Maybe Tomorrow, and I played this stripper who's on drugs and drunk, and so she's kind of a mess, and she's got a Long Island accent, and she's talking like this, and I didn't actually have to do any striptease, but that was her like profession in the film, and she's the girlfriend of the main character. And characters like that I like to explore because they're kind of messy, and she just talked funny, and it would have just been fun to do more scenes with her, as her. But I feel like in general we want more of what we have, right? So I want more Sombra happening. I'm on a Disney show with Dan Povenmire right now. He created Phineas and Ferb, and I play the mom of Gretel. The show's called Hamster and Gretel. And of course I want the mom to be in all episodes, because it's fun. It's just more interactions for us and more time to play. So I'm just looking forward to the next stuff that comes, that can be fun. And I'm working on a video game now, and I'm very excited for that character. And it'll be probably another year or two till it comes out. But
Oh, I hate that.
I know.
Uh,
It's particularly hard when you feel super excited about it, because some you're just like, well, I don't know what the hell this is, so I'll forget. I'll wait. And then with this one, I'm like, oh, I'm excited for her.
So is this a main character? I know you can't say anything, but is this like a bigger role? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. I will have to get you back if you're free to speak about that
Yeah.
one.
Well, I'm always putting stuff on my socials, so as soon as I announce stuff, you'll be like, oh, that thing. Yeah, cool.
I'll give you a couple more because I know you got to run. What is there a role that you haven't got yet that you'd like a character that you'd love to dive into that you haven't, whether it's an established character or a voice that you've got in your back of your head that you haven't been able to fully bring out? Is there one that springs to mind?
Oh my god, definitely playing like a little boy for animation. He's 6 3/4 and he's kind of an asshole, but like he really just wants to be kind, but it's hard. And he's got a little raspy voice, and I feel
That's
like I would
really good.
I'd love to just be a
Ugh.
little series regular on an animation.
Yeah.
That would be cool. And then just in general, I think like Jodie Comer in Killing Eve, or I mean Phoebe Waller-Bridge with her show. It's just she's so talented and creative. So characters that are just a little bit weird and kind of funky. Like, sure, I love running with a gun and being a badass, but I love that Jodie Comer's character is weird and has her quirks, and she's not just like, I'm sexy and I'm gonna kill you. Uh she can be a bit nuts. And I feel like in Morgan's Mask, I got to show quirks, like what a zany character can be like, and those are fun.
Oh yeah, 100%. And look, I don't want to ask the generic question of what are your tips for voice acting. So I'll spin it. I'll say, what are the misconceptions on voice acting and performance capture and that sort of thing? What is something that you think people are getting wrong about it?
I think a lot of the people that I meet that are like, I got this really good impression, and they'll do like an impression of Thor or an impression of Batman, uh,
Mm,
and they want to voice act because they do that. And there's only so much you can do with one impression. And we can try this voice, but if it's non-sustainable, it's kind of not going to work for a long period of time. So we have to focus on the acting part of voice acting, and that's where I think people just want to do a voice rather than focus on, oh, this involves acting chops. Let me go practice acting. Let me go take classes and learn how to emote, and then characters can be born from there. Rather than just like this one sort of sound. Because of course, like this little voice could be cute, but if I can't act, it's going to be a boring kid. So it's
mm.
like finding the nuances in that. And I think we just have to lose the fear of getting it right. We just have to try and play with what our tool, our instrument, our voice, our vocal cords, our body can do. Because I always joke that I would never be able to voice Diva. She's got a really high pitched voice, and I can't do that. So I shouldn't try. I'll just let me focus on the ones that fit for me. And of course I can expand on making higher pitched sounds or sounding lower, but there's certain things that might not work for me, and that's okay. We don't have to do it all. We can work within our range and expand that and make it really worthwhile.
Very valuable advice. Thank you for that. Is there anything you wanted to say to the fans today that have tuned in? Maybe Overwatch fans or Dead Island fans or fans of you in general? Is there anything you wanted to say?
Well, thank you for sticking around and being fans of what we do. I always put a lot of work into the things we do, and it's always very fun. Give me a follow if you don't follow me, just because that's where I announce stuff. It's not like let me get more followers. That's how I let you know what's going on, if you're interested in stuff. And I guess for Morgan's Mask, it's I give trigger warnings because it gets a little bit dark. There's some difficult subject matters that are touched. So, if you deal with depression or anxiety, maybe watch it with a friend, but know that in the end it's to start the conversation and to give people hope that they're not alone and that there's a way out. That's kind of my main concern, but it is to let gamers and cosplayers and anyone who's felt that, I want to let them know they're seen, and that we were trying to represent them in this project. So, because you don't see that a lot, there's Ready Player One, and then they usually make fun of gamers in basements just doing a thing, play in the dark, and like I feel like there's so much more to that. So, you know,
Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time today. We really do appreciate it.
thank you. This was super fun.
And before I let you go, can can Carla say anything to Dan? Is that
Oh my
possible?
God.
Can we
I
do you
don't
have the
even
voice? If not
Yeah,
Sombra.
it kind of comes and goes. Yeah. Hey man, I'm gonna ride a motorcycle. I don't even know what she says. It's a little bit of me, a little bit of everything. We played with the accent at different times, depending on who she was talking to. But Sombra would say, "See you later. Mess with the best and die like the rest. Apagando las luces." And Raze would
Oh, I
say,
love that.
"Here comes the party." Boom. Oh, and
How many times have you said that? I don't want to know. Oh man.
thousands. I mean, yeah, for sure.
That's crazy. So follow you on Insta, Twitter, TikTok?
I do some TikTok, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
my YouTube channel is called Hispanglo Saxon. Actually, there's a bunch of content there. It's old, but it's videos with Overwatch voice actors and Valorant voice actors, where I interview them or we exchange voice lines, and there's a slew of content there. So
I
if you want
forgot
to
your
go,
interviews from the pandemic. They were so good.
yeah.
Yeah.
I forget that exists too. So if anyone
Yeah.
ever wants to just find that, it's there.
Do you think you'll ever bring that back? Or was that just another because it was a pandemic
It
and
was
you
the
were
pandemic.
yeah.
It's when we're recording so much, it's a lot of work to keep doing that
Yeah.
because it's pretty exhausting in terms of just like getting the guests and then they cancel because they got a recording, which of course is priority, and then I got to scramble to get new ones, and then it turns into this job that I don't need because I'm doing other stuff that's
You've got a
exciting. You know what I
job.
mean? It's
Yeah.
another job, and it's hard to
Yeah.
keep up. But maybe I'll bring it back. We'll see. I don't know.
Awesome. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for taking the time today. We really appreciate it, and we wish you all the best. And hopefully, we can talk again soon when that big project comes out. I'm looking forward to it, whatever it is.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan. You're a great interviewer. This was lovely. Let me know.